There's been a lot of concern recently about the possibility that nuclear arms could be used in the conflict in Ukraine following Russia's invasion. There's been a lot of talk from Russia about the possible use by Ukraine of a dirty bomb. Well, there's also a lot of concern that they will launch so-called tactical nukes at Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is attempting, I guess, to reassure us that that is not likely at this point to happen, saying that he denies that he would conduct a nuclear strike in Ukraine. Apologies, saying it doesn't make sense for us to do it. We have only hinted in response to statements made by Western leaders, which, look, I get that that can be interpreted as, thus don't worry as much, which is good. I don't want anyone to have to worry about nuclear war. The idea that you seem to be saying that because someone else said something, you had to falsely imply that you'll nuke the country you're currently invading is weird in its own way, but whatever moves us farther away from nuclear war, I guess, is good. Now, bear in mind, in that statement, which is part of the beginnings of their yearly nuclear readiness drills, he does again repeat claims that Ukraine is preparing to use a dirty bomb, saying that they would nuke themselves, then claim that it was a Russian nuclear strike. He says, but it doesn't make sense for us to do it either politically nor militarily, which I agree. In both cases, I honestly do not see how nuking Ukraine would help their situation in either of those areas. Also, I will say that politically, it wouldn't really help Ukraine to do this stupid conspiratorial plot, because setting off your own dirty bomb is not going to look anything like an ICBM being launched by Russia at Ukraine. That would be the most see-through false flag ever. It is insulting to every person forced to listen to it to think that that's a thing that Russia seriously fears that the Ukraine is going to do. In any event, we're a little bit further away from nuclear war, Brett, so that's a good way to greet the Friday.
If you are fighting over territory that you want to be part of your country, it doesn't really make sense to make it radioactively uninhabitable for decades. Like, that doesn't make sense. Now, who's motivated by doing what, right? Like, there's people who will believe, like, I don't think that Vladimir Putin will do it. He's basically signaling like, remember the game we played all of '80s? Let's do this again. Let's do it forever. Let's just have mutual assured destruction. And I will, in the meantime, try to slowly expand in ways that do not trigger nuclear war. Like, I'll be very Russian and imperialist, like America imperialist. It's a fun game. And it's all over legacy. But what I will say is that I don't think, if it is the case that someone's using, if a nuclear dirty bomb happens, the only, like, whoever has decided that they're not actually interested in that area would be responsible. And if this is like a geopolitical play by Russia to exert more influence and create a buffer between them and the so-called West, it only makes sense for them to use a dirty bomb. They were just chilling, dude. Yeah.
Yes, I will say, bearing in mind that, even in the couple of months where Russia had stationed 100,000 troops along the border of Ukraine, I didn't think they would invade. So take any of my predictions with a grain of salt. I find it inconceivable that Russia would do this, that they would nuke Ukraine, that they even would do the dirty bomb thing. Now, I don't have a good explanation as to what it is that they're doing at that nuclear plant, why it appears that they're doing construction there, although perhaps it's repairs, why they won't let international observers there. That said, I still find it inconceivable that they would utilize nuclear arms. I want to get to one more comment that was made during the speech. Putin accused the West of, quote, fueling the war in Ukraine, which, yeah, I think that's fair. I think that they are fueling the war. I would argue that it's also being fueled by the country that's invading it. So, both sides on that one. But anyway, he said that dominion of the world is precisely what the so-called West has decided to stake in this game. But this game is a dangerous, dirty, and deadly one. I think that anyone pointing out that the United States wants dominion over at least a lot of the world is probably safe in that estimation. I would say that we already have dominion over quite a bit of the planet. But you do undercut your argument just a little bit when you're in the middle of invading and conquering another country, and it's not even the first other country you've invaded and conquered in the last decade or so. So you might be right that maybe the US does want dominion. Maybe the US should keep to itself, but you also could have not then apparently played into their hands by attempting to conquer another sovereign nation. That would be my point, Brett. What do you think?
Yeah, it is weird. It is, sorry, I was looking at a link sent with an update on Paul Pelosi, who's undergoing brain surgery. Yes. It is weird to me that whenever Vladimir Putin says the West is imperialist, to then say that Russia, home of the czars and various Russian empires over time, is not imperialist. There's an amazing video that I watched recently that was actually by Richard Nixon back in like the 90s or whatever, right as the Soviet Union was falling. He was like, I am terrified of what Russia would be without communism because it will just go, and then he just basically predicts Vladimir Putin. It will go to like oligarchy and a reattempt at the, they'll default back to the instincts of Russian imperialism to expand their sphere of influence without any pretense of helping the average Russian along the way.
Yeah, this isn't helping. I'll say what I've always said, just go. It would help you, well, not you maybe, although I can't imagine this is long-term gonna be helping your standing, that you're doing all this damage to the Russian economy. It certainly would help all of the Russians and families of Russians who will die in this needless war. And let's say that you're right, that this is all part of a US plot for dominion over the world, then don't help them along with that. If they apparently want this war, deny them it. And you can give a little speech about how you stood up to the US or whatever, I don't care what you say. Just end the war and then we won't have a war. How great would that be? Anyway, Biden responded very quickly to what Putin said about nukes, saying if he has no intention, why does he keep talking about it? Why does he talk about the ability to use a tactical nuclear weapon? He's been very dangerous in how he's approached this. Putin can end this all, get out of Ukraine. Yes, we'll see. He could at any point. I don't see what at this point they're hoping to gain. I am just really hoping that for once my predictions come true and there's no use of nukes there. That's what I'll say.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.